Hello and welcome to a Renewed Life Global. Discover secrets to heal from emotional wounds, set boundaries, and move forward. I am your host, Dr. Beverly Carter. The title of today's interview is The Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. And we welcome Mrs. Nijama Smalls to the platform. Nijama Smalls is the author of the Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds series, and she's the CEO of the Emotional Wellness Hub. Nijama Smalls is a writer, emotional coach, and speaker. She has written for various publications and spoken on numerous platforms on the topics of healing emotional wounds, emotional intelligence, self-love, and destroying generational patterns. She is the wife of Pastor Shaman Smalls. She is the mother of two and a Southern Belle, a native of Rock Hill, South Carolina. She spent many years working in various leadership roles in corporate America. In addition, Ms. Smalls is a certified life coach and holds certifications in emotional intelligence, mindfulness meditation, and cognitive behavior therapy. She enjoys sharing her wisdom with women and leaders on their journey toward healing and managing their emotions. And we welcome Mrs. Nijama Smalls. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Beverly. I'm so delighted to be here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation tonight. So thank you for inviting me on your platform.
It's the honor is ours, trust me. So can you share with us what unhealed emotional wounds look like?
Unhealed emotional wounds. You know, think about when you have a scar on your hand, right? When you have a wound and that wound hasn't healed, okay? And if something touches that wound, you you react to it or are triggered, right? So emotional wounds behave in the same way as our physical wounds behave, in that when we haven't healed that wound, and when something touches that wound or bothers it or ignites it, we are triggered and we have a reaction. So that's why it's so important that we heal our emotional wounds, because we don't want to behave erratically or unprofessionally if we're in a professional setting or whatever. You know, as the saying says, if you don't heal, you will bleed all over those
Mm,
that love you. And
wow.
so that's why it's just so important that we're aware of our wounds, aware of our triggers,
Yeah.
and do the hard work to heal them.
Yeah, that's powerful. What are the three most common emotional wounds?
I would say rejection,
Mm,
abandonment, daddy issues, and that kind of stems from rejection as well. But those are typically the three most common wounds.
okay. Now, I mean, the title of your book, The Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. My question here is emotional wounds are just emotional wounds. Race, gender, anything, I mean, is that important here?
So here's the thing, and I get this question a lot, right? Why Black women? Wounds are wounds, right? Why isn't it, more inclusive? The thing about it is, yes, unhealed emotional wounds are the same, but our origins are different. So for Black women in America, our first experiences in this country was traumatic, right? We
Right.
dealt with a lot of rejection and racism, right then and there, our first moments, right? And so we have passed down a lot of generational trauma, from generation to generation, that we haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to heal.
True.
Our ancestors were busy focusing on surviving.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you're focused on, it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When
Right.
you are focused on putting food on the table, protecting the family, keeping them safe from racism, fighting a system that was against you, you don't have time to go see a therapist, go see a life coach,
Right.
read a self-help book to get all of the tools that you need.
Yeah.
So now that we are in a moment that we are thriving to some degree, right? We
Yeah.
do have the time to take a look back and reflect and do that soul work. And it's for the ancestors, but more importantly, it's for us.
Yeah.
It's for our future generations.
Yes.
You know, we talk about passing down generational wealth. We need to pass down generational healing. That's one
Yes.
of the things we need to include in our legacy as well. You know, I hope my kids look back at me when I'm long gone and say, you know, mama did the work. She
Yeah.
did the hard work
Yes.
to heal, because I want to show, I want to give them and everyone around me that I love the best of me.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. And I mean, I love that you highlighted it that way, because I think our journeys may be a little bit different, but, being clear and acknowledging where we come from, our ancestral walk is really what's playing out maybe right now. Is that true, what you said?
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. I mean, it's frightening. I think about all the isms that apply here.
Mhm.
So talk about a little bit more about rejection and how it impacts us.
Mm. You know, rejection is a very tough wound, to break away from, and a tough wound to heal, I should say, because the thing about rejection, it causes us to look inward, right? We
Right.
question ourselves. For some reason, our mind doesn't question the person that's
Mhm.
rejecting us. We
Right.
look at ourselves and we say, you know, am I tall enough?
Mhm.
Was I smart enough? Was I pretty enough? Am I worthy enough? You know, and I think that's it, it tears down our self-esteem. It tears it down little by little. And so when we are trapped in that womb of rejection, we begin rejecting other people like that, because we know how it feels to be
Yes.
rejecting. So
Yes.
that kind of becomes our weapon. And all of us, the reality of it is, all of us have faced rejection, right?
Yep.
Whether it's daddy wasn't present, mommy wasn't present, whether it was the boy that you liked, that you wanted to date you, he didn't like you, whether you went through a divorce, whether you didn't get into the sorority that you wanted to
Right.
get into, whether you didn't get the job or the promotion. You know, we've
Right.
all experienced rejection, but
Right.
it's what our mind, the story that we tell ourselves
Yeah.
about rejection. And when we tell ourselves, you know, I'm not worthy, I'm not pretty, I'm not smart, all of those things, that's when it eats away at us. So we have to heal it. So we are not either A, hurting other people by rejecting them, right?
Right.
Because, you know, hurting people hurt people. And so that we are showing up confident. So we can say, you know, even if I don't get this job, it's okay. You know, I was telling a girlfriend, she called me yesterday. She said, I have an interview today at 1 o'clock. This is my dream job, you know, going through the whole thing. I said, if you don't get it, it's okay.
It's
You know,
okay.
go to that table. No, you've been doing this for years. You have the experience, but this doesn't say anything about you.
Nope.
If you don't get it, it could be they can't afford you. It could be a number of things. It has nothing to do with you. You're still great. And maybe it could be a closed door. God could be closing the door because there's something better.
That's
So,
it.
so that's why rejection is such a powerful wound. And also when we're dealing with rejection, especially um, when if our fathers weren't there, weren't present, you know, that's another level of rejection, because we get into this cycle of we begin pursuing men that are just like our father. And so if
Right.
daddy wasn't there, emotionally unavailable, guess what we choose?
Yes.
Emotionally unavailable men, you know?
Yes. And
And
the pursuit
so
of happiness.
exactly. And so we get caught up in this cycle, and we keep hurting ourselves. You know, we say, oh, this guy hurt me, though, this guy hurt me. No, you hurt yourself,
Yeah.
because you knew he wasn't emotionally available from
Right.
the beginning. You knew
Right.
his type. He reminds you of your dad for a reason.
Yes.
So why not walk away? So that's why we've got to build up our self-awareness and really
Yeah.
fight that particular wound.
Yeah, I really love that you highlighted that particular example, because that is very much a generational trauma for
Mm,
us. I mean, that is the residue of slavery, right?
absolutely.
When the massa was making slaves, he put together his strongest, whoever they were. And so, whoever mom was president or sold off or dad was sold off. So that became, I think, a part of our pattern.
Yep.
And, we're certainly repeating the cycle for, generation after generation. And I love, the fact that you wrote this guide to heal emotional wounds, because until we acknowledge that and, and really get to a place where we're ready to look at it, we won't move forward.
Right.
We'll just continue to repeat it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now is the time that we need to take a good hard look at it and acknowledge it.
Yeah. So what made you write this book, The Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds?
So, I began to look at myself. And I wanted to understand how I was showing up and why I was showing up. In my marriage, in my professional life. For example, there was a time I could not work for a woman.
Okay.
Especially a Black woman.
Okay.
I could not take it. I couldn't stand it. And I would come up with ways subconsciously to sabotage the relationship, and doing the hard work and self-reflecting and journaling and so forth. I really realized that it wasn't my leadership that I had an issue with. It was my mother. My mother she was a single mother for a lot of the time. And she was very much so a strong woman. It was her way or the highway. There were no, and I always felt pressured, and I never felt as if my voice mattered. So this showed up in my professional relationships, right? And so I began to look, and I said, it's whenever it's a woman, I just can't do, I sabotage it. What goes, and in my head, I would make up all of these scenarios, and, she's out to get me, and it wasn't the case, and I was like, am I crazy? But I had to realize there was a wound there. There were mommy issues that were sabotaging me.
Yes.
And so I had to do the hard work, which was forgiving my mom. And, my mom, and part of that was just realizing my mom used what she had to raise me. She believed that everything she did was for my best interest,
Sure.
And I had to realize she's a woman with her own traumas, her own hurts, her own pains. Moms aren't perfect beings.
Nope.
And I tell my kids that mommy makes mistakes. I'm not perfect. Mommy's gonna make mistakes, because I don't want them to think I'm a perfect being as well. So I really had to start with forgiving my mom and accepting her for who she is. She's still, to this day, and I'm a grown married woman with my own family, my own home, and so on. And to this day, she's still very dominant. But I let her be her. Doesn't mean I have to do everything she says, but I don't, I don't try to fight her on. I say, okay, Mom, I understand. That's your opinion, Mom. I get it.
Yes.
And I still love her. Yes. I can still love on her and let her be her.
Yes.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why I decided that this girl needed to do some healing work.
Good for you. Wow. And I love that you gave yourself a voice and became an author.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is your first book, but I'm sure it's there will be many, many more to come.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, please. I tell you, I love the example that you shared with us about your mom, because the truth is, as I think about it, all of us, we learn how to be who we are from our parents, from the people who were our guardians, whoever we were around at the time, which is how we formed our values, and our beliefs. Absolutely. And I just think it's extraordinary, and no matter what happened in the early days, but extraordinary how we carry that forward into adulthood, that foundation, right, wrong, or indifferent, and how fragile those beliefs are.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. We do carry those with us. And especially our moms, they set the templates for us, right? And I can remember my mom and my aunts used to say to me, you can't trust too many women, or, women aren't your friends. Da, 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 da. And I believe that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't trust other women. And I was just always in my mind, believing that other women friends had the worst for me. And so it wasn't until I had to let go of that and see, not everyone is like that,
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
some really good people out there that know how to do friendship. So I
Yes.
don't have to take that with me.
That's right. That's right. Wow. And that's a powerful lesson when you think about it, how they learned that particular lesson, how they
Mhm.
learned to acknowledge that as a truth for them and
Right.
pass it on. Watch out. Because I can tell you for a fact, I have heard that many, many, many times within our community.
Mhm.
Just, oh, there are too many women.
Yeah, yes.
Time to go.
Exactly.
Too many women and too many emotionally unavailable men.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what you
I
said.
tell you, yeah, that's so. So, what can readers expect from when they read this particular book?
They can expect my full transparency. I'm pretty, I'm pretty real and authentic in the book. I tell it all. My family secrets, which was a big thing for me. It was a big point of healing for me, and of course, sharing the family secret caused a lot of riffraff in the
It
family
did.
when the book dropped. But it is what it is. I wanted not only for myself to heal, I wanted the generation before me to heal.
Yes,
They're
yes,
still on this
yes.
earth, and I still believe that they can heal. And it was a secret that no one in my family had spoken of.
Yeah,
And I wanted them a chance to be able to sit down with each other and say, "This happened, but it's okay. We're all okay." And I talk a lot about my early dating experiences.
oh, tell us
Those
about that.
those were interesting. Um, but it's definitely learning and so
Yeah,
forth. One of the comments that I get from readers all the time is like, this book, I felt like I was just sitting down talking to a friend
yeah,
when I was reading this book. And that's how I wanted it to be. That's my personality. I'm not
yeah.
a
I
very
can see that.
formal person. I can be when needed to be, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm very much, hey girl, hey sis,
That's
that
it.
kind of thing.
Look, that's it. Yeah.
I wanted that part of me
Yeah,
to shine through in the
yeah,
book. Because I'm sharing me, I'm sharing all of my personal life.
yeah.
So you might as well get to know all of me, if I'm going to share all of that. So that, I think that's some of the things. And then I talk about all of the wounds and the healing process.
Sure.
The process that you can take, which is, includes acceptance, forgiveness, grieving, all of those things that will take you through, the healing process.
Hmm. No, you are a very a highly credentialed person,
Mhm.
and I'm just processing now. I'm thinking, a life coach, emotional intelligence, mindfulness therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. How are you weaving? And I'm sure you're weaving some of those nuggets throughout your book.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
There in all of my books, there's a lot of research that goes into it, and I use a lot of the theories, in not directly but indirectly into the books, and a lot of it is just experience, right? It's just I've always been one that was curious about human behavior and wanted to understand the very essence of human behavior, kind of why we do the things we do. So I've always been interested in all of the theories that can explain those things. So you will see that. And and the examples I give of the women at first, I try to cover as many of the theories as I can, from attachment issues and
Yes.
so on and so forth. So yes, all of that is woven into the books.
Yeah. Oh, I know that's yeah. That's fun right there. That's a fun read, I think. So, what advice would you give people or anyone listening who knows that they have emotional wounds that need healing, and they're not quite sure? what to do with it?
I always tell people start with a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to connect with a good therapist,
Yeah.
um, because a lot of this work is, digging into our past.
Yeah.
And the past can be painful. I never want to minimize anyone's trauma or re-traumatize anyone.
Right.
So
Right.
I always tell people, start with a therapist. Um, Even if you're reading my books and so on, read them with a therapist if because I've had people reach out to me and say, I really want to read this, but I'm just afraid that I'm going to re-traumatize myself. And I said, go get a
Sure.
therapist.
Yeah.
Go get a therapist all day long. So get yourself a therapist, get yourself a life coach if you need to. And just pray and ask God to show you what wounds you need to work on, because sometimes we don't know, we haven't studied ourselves and
Sure.
spent enough time with ourselves to know what wounds we need to work on. So prayer will help. And also, ask a couple of friends, how do I handle conflict? How do you see me handling conflict and so on?
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the things you see when I get triggered? And pay attention yourself.
Yeah.
How, pay attention to see how you get triggered and how you respond to those triggers, right? Um, if you find yourself, flipping off because, people didn't take your idea in the meeting and run with it, you may have, some issues with feeling seen and feeling heard and so forth. So just start. That's why journaling is key,
Yeah.
because you begin to see the patterns of your behavior
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. So that's where I would kind of tell people to start.
Yeah. So what's the difference? I mean, we're encouraging people to work with therapists, which is always great advice, but then also life coaches. What is a life coach, and how do they work? Do they work in conjunction with a therapist or separate from?
They can work on either end. They can work in conjunction with a therapist. They can work, you can work with a life coach separately. You may decide that you want to graduate, and I'm just using this word loosely, from a therapist, from a life coach. But the huge difference is, a therapist pretty much can diagnose you. I'm not going to diagnose you. That's not my job at all. A
Right.
therapist can diagnose you. Some can even, prescribe you medication and so forth. It's a lot of the work that the therapist does is in dealing with the past.
Right.
Whereas the life coach is like, okay, we're gonna make plans for the future. We're going to
Right.
start looking at how you can make the the next few years your best. And and it does require looking back in the past, but not as extensively as a
Yeah.
therapist will. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So then life coaching helps to put structure
Mm-hmm.
around our day to day,
Mm-hmm.
and helps us put a plan together for where we want to go and maybe how we want to get there, right?
Yes, I love that you said plan. Yes, absolutely. It's all about planning and goal setting. Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. So before I forget, what is the Emotional Wellness Hub?
The Emotional Wellness Hub is now a space where we can go to for healing. It's relatively new, so it's still a work in progress, but I have a lot of information there, whether it's, you want to find a therapist, whether it's, you want some online training, whether you want to do a one-on-one coaching session, whatever it is you need, it's there. It's going to be there in the Emotional Wellness Hub. So
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm going to make the assumption that you're not recommending any single therapist or individual. You probably just have a whole variety of people
yes,
to choose from. Yeah.
a variety of people. I try to talk to them to get to know them, because I want to make sure I'm referring people
Right.
to good quality,
Yeah.
people out there. But yes, it's an inclusive list to help us, because I get that a lot. I get a lot of people that, email me and say, can you refer me to a therapist? Or people say, I'm
Yeah.
having a hard time finding a therapist. And I don't want to turn people away. I want to be able
Yeah.
to point them, because if you're
Yeah.
looking for a therapist, you there's a need. and
Absolutely.
and I know how easy it is, or at least maybe it was for me. I would say I want a therapist, and one robe up, and I'm like, nah, maybe that therapist is for later. Maybe it's not time for me to just
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
therapist. So I want to be able to make that transition to therapy easy for them.
Yeah. And, you know, I appreciate the idea that you have a variety of people there in that hub. But in particular, I'm grateful that, you know, you've got people of all different backgrounds there that can speak to people's experiences, you know, their lived experiences. And, you know, and I would presume that, you know, if somebody had, you know, an issue maybe around, you know, something specific to the African American culture, for example, to have a therapist where you don't have to say, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, or
absolutely,
you know, and I'm sure you have other folks on there too, but I know that it's not always easy to find people who understand you.
Absolutely. That was one of my issues when I was looking for a therapist. You know, I couldn't, you know, I wanted someone that I can identify with, because like I said, I had a lot of issues, you know, and with my mom and so forth. And with my father not being present. And that was a whole thing. And I didn't want to have to, you know, just go through a whole lot of explaining my background, right? I wanted someone that could understand, you know, what having a Southern Black mom actually looks like.
Well, that's that's the thing, right? So for most of us who are African American, our families came from the South, and the mom that you describe is the one I recognize. You know, because that's who kept us safe.
That's right.
I mean, we are living in different times, but it's that mindset that just kept us sort of in tow and kept us safe, kept us whole. Yeah, the only problem is now as times change, you know, some of that processing has to change too.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So yeah, I'm excited. So from your perspective, what action steps can be taken to alleviate the burden of trauma and heal emotional wounds?
I think finding safe spaces.
That's a great one.
Safe spaces are key, because the more you talk about it in a safe space, you desensitize it. You know, you take the sting out of it. As I mentioned, you know, the one family secret that we held in our family, I wasn't able to talk about it. I never mentioned it until, you know, late one night with, you know, some girlfriends, and one of my girlfriends, you know, was going through a divorce. So we were all just kind of talking, and that's when I mentioned it. And I was like, I haven't been able to mention, I haven't really been able to talk to my own husband about it. And, you know, when we're not able to talk about it, that's when we're building shame. You know, and shame is another crippling emotional wound.
Absolutely.
And so there was a lot of shame attached to it. And now I can just talk about it like it's, you know, like I'm talking about the color blue. But it took me a very long time to get to this place. So I definitely say find a safe space. And I just believe that, you know, love has the power to heal us as well. When you feel loved, you know, that can help you heal. And there's so many of the theories, attachment theory, it talks about finding secure attachments to heal and so forth. So it's so important that we find love. We have to give it to get it, right? It just doesn't, we have to be love in order to get love. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get. So I think it's so important that we find loving, safe spaces that we can share and grow.
Yeah, I so agree with you. That's a powerful one, really. That's really powerful. You know, when I think about it, I think that's, you know, I don't know if I want to say it's a cultural thing, but it was very much a part of my family too. You know, we don't talk about the stuff that happens. It just, that's our business.
Oh yes, you don't tell the family secrets.
That's a pain worse than death.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you to be able to write about it and really pull the Band-Aid off of it, wow, that is awesome. And like you said, like you can't move forward until you acknowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how do we learn how to set boundaries after experiencing a trauma that we're trying to heal from?
think, the biggest thing about boundaries, a big part of boundaries is kind of like, I look at it as what I won't do, right?
Mm.
I know, I know for me, to give you an example, and part of it is looking at your triggers, right? So for me, is looking at what's going to cause me to be triggered. If I have an area that I haven't healed, then I'm going to look at that trigger and I'm going to say, this is going to cause me to become triggered. So I'm going to step away. There are certain types of people that I don't, I embrace everybody, but I'm not going to become super friends with,
Right.
right? Just because that's not healthy for me, right?
Gotcha.
And so it's a way of protecting yourself, and you're protecting the other person as well,
That's
because
good.
you're saying, this isn't good for both of us. So I
Right.
think that's where part of where you start with setting and establishing those boundaries and maintaining them. And you got to know yourself. A part of it is just knowing yourself well enough to know
Yeah.
what's good for you, what's not good for you, what's going to make you act out and so forth, and
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
not. And part of that is maturing, you know.
And that's, yeah.
It's a maturity
It's
thing.
true. It's so true. Yeah, that's true. The things that affected us, like, like in our 20s means nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's sort of like going back and reading one of the early journals and trying to
Mhm.
figure out what in the world, what was I thinking? Oh my goodness, can I get rid of this thing?
Exactly. Like, yeah, I was there. Wow.
Mm.
Yep.
But yes, we were there. Yeah.
Mhm.
So talk to me about freedom. What does freedom from emotional traumas and oppressions look like? How do we move forward?
Peace.
Mm.
Freedom equals peace. Because once it has no control over you anymore. You're not worried about someone dropping your secret, or you're not worried about appearing inauthentic, or the imposter syndrome, as they call it
Right.
nowadays.
Yeah.
So it gives you a certain level of peace. You've gotten your boundaries in place. You know what you're going to do. You know what you want to do. You have a certain level of peace
Yeah.
about it. You're not in torment
Yeah.
by your past or mistakes or hurts or whatever the case is. So
Hmm.
I think that freedom for me definitely equates to peace.
Yeah. Wow. And how do you find peace? How do
I
you
think
find it?
I think you find peace in healing
Yeah.
and acceptance. I wrote in the book about when my cousin passed away, and
Mm-hmm.
and she was young, and it was sudden, and it hurt me deeply. And I would, for a year, I wake up in the middle of the night and I would ask my husband, why did God take my cousin away? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And
Yeah.
I woke up in the night and I saw the words, God, help me to accept the things I cannot change.
All
And
right.
I realized at that moment, no matter how many nights I stayed up questioning God, trying to understand it, wondering if she had done a different thing or whatever the case is, it wasn't going to change it.
Right.
There was no amount of stressing myself that was going to bring her back. And at that moment, I decided I was going to accept it.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, an acceptance doesn't mean I'm still not, I still don't get sad sometimes.
Right.
It doesn't mean I don't wish that she wasn't here, because I certainly do. But
Right.
it just means I've made peace with it. I'm not wrestling and, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
I'm not angry about it. That level of emotion is gone from
Yeah.
me now. I've,
Yeah.
I'm, it happened. I can't change it.
Yeah. I really love that you shared that, because I think a lot of people look at their experience with trauma and they think, oh, if I heal this and I'll never have to,
Mhm.
go through it again. I mean, what would you say to that?
Even if you heal, something else is going to come up. That's a part of life. you know, I've been talking to women a lot lately about disappointments, right? And whatever it is, professionally, in our relationships, or whatever the case is, you know, I think we feel that people won't disappoint us. Somewhere we've taught ourselves that, right? And so when the disappointment happens, we're triggered, we're angry, we're frustrated, we're ready to cancel it, you know, and we have to realize people are flawed in human beings. We are a flawed species. You know, we are definitely flawed. And so that's where we have to extend grace, you know,
Yes.
and realize that disappointments in life are going to happen. That's just a part of the human experience. And people will fail us. Our spouses will fail us, our parents will fail us, our children will fail us. They will disappoint us.
Yes.
But you know, we have to extend them grace, the same as you're going to disappoint all of those people, you know.
Yes,
And so we have to extend grace to others, and we have to extend grace to ourselves. Feel the feeling. If something happens again, feel it. Allow the feelings to happen. Don't try to push it away. But understand, you know, give yourself a time to grieve and heal it. But understand we've got to push on, and it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not. And I think, you know, like they say, we are the sum of all of our parts. So, you know, whatever that experience was, whatever that trauma was, if you've been able to work through it and you know, come to peace with it, then that is just, I mean, that's such an extraordinary gift. But it will always be a part of your life experience, your life journey. Exactly. So yeah, so I tell you, I am so I'm intrigued about your work, about what it is you're doing, you know, and certainly your book, and when can we expect your next one?
Oh, that's a good question. So I have 3 that are out now. I have the Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. I have the devotional, which is taking healing day by day for 30 days. And then I have the journal. And this journal is unique because it's an emotional journal. So it helps you kind of track your emotions and feelings. So you can look back and see what's causing you to feel, you know, the different feelings that you're feeling, right? And all of those called the Black Girl's Guide. And then my next book is going to be for everybody. So it's everybody in the family. So it's the Black Family's Guide. Yes. And I'm hoping, because one of the things I firmly believe, you know, in Black families, we always have this family reunion, right? And it always follows the same template, the barbecue, the church on Sundays, the same template. We need to make a time in that weekend to do healing sessions where we talk about the family secrets and get it out there and let people know that they are loved and cherished, and that the ones that are gone, that they loved you. And, you know, we wrap our arms around the people that we know are hurting and love on them. That's it. Yeah. So that's going to be coming out next year.
Beautiful. I had a feeling. Yes.
I'm not done yet.
No, I think you're just warming up, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. So do you have a free gift for the audience?
I do. I'm offering 1 month on the Emotional Wellness Hub to take a course. And it's an emotional healing course. It's all virtual, it's all online and so forth. It's self-paced, it's at your own pace. And we're covering all of the issues from rejection to abandonment, all of the issues. You get it out, you work with me. There's homework attached to it. You can go straight to the Emotional Wellness Hub at teachable.com, or you can visit my website, nijamasmalls.com, and just go to the Black Girl's Guide, and it'll list all of the resources there. Make sure you use the coupon code Summer Conference, which is all capital letters, all one word. Summer Conference, all capital letters, all one word.
Okay. And do you want to spell the site, Nijama?
Yes, I'll drop. Do you want me to drop it in the chat, or should I just spell it right now?
Just spell it right now. Yeah.
Okay. So you can go to, I'll tell you the easiest one. Go to my website, Nijama, Nijama, Smalls.com, and just go to the Black Girl's Guide tab. It's on the top in the pink. Click on that. scroll down to the bottom and you'll see it. The
Awesome.
Emotional Wellness Hub.
Wow. I feel like we're very well taken care of by you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, we really thank you, because I've been on the site and I've seen the hub, so I know you know how important it is. I recognize the value in it, and especially to have that feeling that you're being taken care of. Yeah, so we so thank you for you know, for the work that you're doing to help us work through stuff, you know, our traumas, our wounds, and to do it in a way, you know, so that we recognize and understand that there's no shame in this. This is the process, you know, and like I say, into every life a little trauma will fall, and the difference between those of us who come out in one piece and those who are deeply wounded is, one, the type of trauma, but two, the number of tools, tips, and techniques we have to be resilient and bounce back.
I love that.
Thank you. And I thank you so very much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with the audience.
Thank you. I'm delighted. I appreciate you thinking of me and having me on.
It's our absolute pleasure. Trust me on that. So once again, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.